Quite a day. Well, joining me is GB News' royal reporter Cameron Walker. Cameron, it would appear that what has happened today, and yes, a couple of soldiers fainted, a couple of horses tried to bolt, but it would appear that the day has gone off pretty much flawlessly.
Yeah, I think it ran like clockwork, Nigel. Of course, it's an event they have been preparing for decades and decades, but it was today that we said a final farewell to Her Majesty the Queen. Of course, Westminster Abbey has been used a number of times throughout Her Majesty's life. Her wedding, for example, in 1947 to Prince Philip. She was crowned there in 1953. And then, of course, today, her funeral. It was the personal touches, I think, which got many people today. The wreath on top of Her Majesty's coffin, for example, at the King's request, had flowers from Buckingham Palace's garden, Clarence House's, as well as Highgrove, rosemary for remembrance, and myrtle, the ancient symbol of a happy marriage, used in the Queen's wedding bouquet. It was grown from a sprig which was used in her wedding bouquet. And King Charles's handwritten note in loving memory and devoted memory, Charles R. Of course, this is a family, Nigel, who is having to grieve in the glare of the public eye, and many of members of the royal family were visibly in tears at times, but I think their dignity and stoicism really shone through for a majority of the time. Of course, Prince George and Princess Charlotte. Prince George is only 9 years old. Princess Charlotte is only 7. Now, we know that Her Majesty the Queen was consulted on all of these funeral plans, and one of the hymns within the Westminster Abbey service was "The Lord is my shepherd," which again was played at the Queen's funeral, Queen's wedding even in 1947. But personally, Nigel, standing there at Westminster Abbey when Her Majesty's coffin emerged from the Abbey following that funeral service, even the press on the stands were incredibly silent. It was a really moving moment. And then, of course, we had that massive procession up to Wellington Arch. The crowd had been camped out, a few of them, for days. I saw a few of them yesterday morning, and they've been camped there overnight for at least 24, 48 hours. It was incredible. And then Her Majesty's coffin was taken in a state hearse to Windsor Castle for the committal service, and then the burial, of course, which is happening as we speak, we believe. The 2 corgis, I think, got a lot of people on social media, and certainly from people I've been speaking to, that was the moment that they started to well up and get a bit emotional. The committal service itself, a lot smaller than Westminster Abbey, 800 or so, of course, in stark contrast to the last funeral service, which happens in St George's Chapel in Windsor, which was Prince Philip's, where just 30 people could attend. We all remember that really sad image of Her Majesty the Queen sat alone in St George's Chapel, but today there were 800 people there. And I just wanted to leave you with this. The Archbishop of Canterbury within Westminster Abbey during his sermon referred to the Queen's 1947 speech where she dedicated her life to service. And I think most people will agree, Nigel, that she did just that.
Absolutely.